Well, welcome back. This is our review quiz for our functions and graphing unit. We're going to start by, we have to determine if the following is a function or not. Then we have to state the domain and range. So to know if it's a function x cannot repeat. So we got to look at the x values in each relation and determine if it's a function. So I have a 1, I have a 3, a 5, and a 7. So those don't repeat, so yes, it is a function. Now it wants to determine if it's the domain and range of each one. So remember, domains are your x values, which is in an ordered pair is your first value. So our domain is 1, 3, 5, and 7. The range are the y values of an ordered pair. So we have 2, 4, 6, and 8. Okay, our second one is a mapping. And the first is your x and the second is your y. And how you read a mapping is you follow the arrow. So this is really the ordered pair -3, 12. Again, you can't repeat the x's, so there can't be two arrows coming from the same x. But I don't have two arrows come from any of the x's, so yes, this is a function. And so now we need to find our domain and range. Again, your domain are just your x values. So I have -3, 0, 5, 8, and 11. Our range are our y values. So I'm going to look over here at my y values. And we have -8, 2, 12, and 20. Okay, so on our next one, remember, this is a table, and f of x is just a fancy way of saying y, so we can put a y above this. So I'm going to look to see if any of my x's repeat. Well, my x's repeat at -2, so this is not a function. But we can still find our domain and range, so we're going to start with our domain. Your domain are just your x values, so -2. I don't have to write that -2 twice. So -2, 0, 2, and 4. And then I'm going to do my range, and then my range are my y values. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. Okay, so now that we know what a function is, we're going to use functions and we're going to evaluate them. So number 2 says find the range of the function. And my function is f of x equals x minus 4 parentheses 2x plus 3. So find the range. So I'm looking for the outputs or the y value. I'm given the domains, which are the x values. Well, the nice thing is I can actually just put this into my calculator. So here I am on my calculator. I'm going to go to the table button. And I have something in mind, so I'm just going to clear it out. So it should say y equals. And what I'm going to do is type in this equation. So remember, f of x is just your fancy way of saying y. So we have y equals, and we're going to put x minus 4 parentheses 2x plus 3, and I'm going to close my parentheses. So now I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to keep hitting enter till I get to that table of values. See if I can shine some light on it to see if that helps y'all. I don't know if I'm making it worse or better. Okay. So this tells us we want to look when x is -5. So I'm going to scroll up to my negatives. And when x is -5, I get out 23. So my range is going to be 23. Now I'm going to look for when x is 1. When x is 1, I get out negative 19. And then I'm going to look for when x is 7, and I get out negative 61. So I didn't have to do the math. I could have just plugged it into my calculator. So we're working on the same equation, so I could still use the calculator, but I'm going to show you how to do it by hand on this one. So we're going to take our equation y equals, in every place I see x, I'm going to replace it with one of these x's. So this time I'm going to replace it with 2. So this gives me 2 minus 4 parentheses. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 3. So I get 2 minus 4 times 7. I have to do order of operations, so I have to do multiplication first. So 2 minus 28 is negative 26. So my input was 2 and my output was negative 26. So now I'm going to do that the same thing again, and I'm going to do it this time for this x of x equal to 4. So I have y equals, I'm going to put 4 minus 4 parentheses 2 times 4 plus 3. So I have 4 minus 4, and I have 8 plus 3. So 4 minus 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have to do multiplication first, so 4 minus 44, which is negative 40. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time. This time I'm going to do it for my 6. So I have my equation. I'm going to do y equals, this time I'm plugging in 6 for x. So 6 minus 4 parentheses, 2 parentheses 6 plus 3. Notice I always put parentheses around what I'm putting in. So then I have 6 minus 4, and I have 12 plus 3. So 6 minus 4 times 15. So 6 minus 60, which would give me a negative 54. Again, I could have done all of that in my calculator, so I'm just going to check myself using the calculator. So the first x value I'm going to look at was when x equals 2. Sorry, I'm trying to get the light so y'all can see the calculator. So if I go, let's see if I put it over here, x equals 2, I get out negative 26, and that's exactly what we got. So now we're going to look when x is 4. We get out negative 40, which is good. We did a good job. And now we're going to look when x is 6, and we get out negative 54. So again, you can do it by hand, or you can just plug it into the calculator. Okay. Let me write the answer up here. So my answer on this one is negative 26, negative 40, and negative 54. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing for our domain of negative 8, 8, 18, and 28. It's the same function, so I already have it in my calculator. So I'm going to scroll up to when x equals negative 8. When my range when x equals negative 8 is 44. Now I'm going to scroll down to my 8. I get negative 68. I'm going to go to 18. Woo, got to scroll way far down. And I get negative 138. And now we got to go to 28. And I get negative 208. So you should be able to do that with and without the calculator. Okay, so number 3 says evaluate the following function, f of x equals 5 minus 4x, when for f of negative 2. Remember, all we're going to do is replace our x with negative 2. So I have the function 5 minus 4, and we're going to plug in negative 2. So negative 4 times negative 2 is a positive 8. Now I'm going to do 5 plus 8, and we get 13. So my input was negative 2. My output was 13. Okay, we're going to do the same idea. This time we're going to evaluate it for x equal to 6, because this is 6, so we're going to plug in 6. So I'm going to do 5 minus 4 times 6, 5 minus 24, which gives me a negative 19. On the next one, be careful. This says f of x, so it's not giving me the x, it's actually giving me the y value. So we're going to put 17 equals 5 minus 4x. Now we have to solve that equation. So I'm going to subtract my 5 from both sides. So I get 12 equals negative 4x. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. And I get x equals negative 3. So when it says f of x, it's giving you the y value, not the x value. Let's try another one like that. This time, D says f of x equals negative 23. So again, it's giving me the y, so negative 23 equals 5 minus 4x. So I'm going to subtract my 5. So I get negative 28 equals negative 4x. Divide both sides by negative 4. I get 7 equals x. So in this case, my input is 7 and my output is negative 23. Okay, now we're going to evaluate, but we're going to evaluate from a graph. So this says find f of 40. So it's inside the parentheses, so it's giving you the x. So you want to go to your x-axis and find 40, and then you're going to find that point, and you want to find the y value. So f of 40 equals 6, because the input's 40, the output is 6. Okay, let's try that one again. This time it says f of 220. So you know x is 220, so you're going to go to your x and look for 220. It's right here, so my output would be the y value of 0. Okay, C is giving you f of x equal to 18. Well, f of x is y, so it's telling you y equals 18. So this time you're going to go to your y-axis and go to 18 and see where it hits, and you're going to go down because you want to know the x value. So x equals 60. So you got to be careful. Is it giving you your x or is it giving you your y? Okay, number 5. Sorry, let me get this onto the page. Okay, it says find the domain and range for the following graphs. Well, I taught my students to use sticky notes, but even if you don't have sticky notes, you can draw the lines. But if you want to see how to use sticky notes, you go take your sticky note. Now, domain always goes from left to right. So let's write that up here. Domain is left to right. So if I start on the left of my graph, I would put my sticky note. So that domain is -8. And at the right, it ends at 6. So my domain is between -8 and 6. So your domain is between -8 and 6. Now you have to decide if -8 and 6 are included. -8 has a closed dot, so it should also have an equal to. 6 has a closed dot, so it should have an equal to. Okay, range is bottom to top because it's your y values. So range is always bottom to top. So if I was going to start with my sticky notes, I go to the bottom and then see where it hits. And then I'm going to go to the top of the graph and draw my line. So the bottom was at -2 and the top was at 5. So your range is -2 less than or equal to y less than or equal to 5. And it's y because it's range. Okay, so let's look at B. So again, domain is left to right. So I'm going to start and I'm going to draw to my x-axis. So it's -4 to 8. Notice there's an open circle at -4. So it's -4 is less than x. It's a closed circle at 8, so less than or equal to 8. Range is bottom to top, so I'm going to go to the bottom, which is -5, then to the top, which is 4. So range is -5 less than, it's closed circle, so equal to y, because range is always the y value, less than, since it's open circle, I'm not going to put an equal to, 4. Okay, here we go. We're going to do a word problem. Let me zoom it out a little so we can read it all at one time. Okay. Savannah has an after-school job coaching tumbling classes. She makes $8.25 per hour. She can work no more than 20 a week. I bet that's 20 hours a week. The equation S of H equals 8.25 can be used to model this situation, where H represents the number of hours Savannah works in 1 week. Okay, so first it asks, is this data discrete or continuous? Well, you can work part of an hour, so this is continuous. Now it asks, what is the domain and range? Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is what represents my independent variable. My independent, or my x, is the number of hours. So that's what we're going to use for my domain. My dependent variable, which is your y, is how much money she makes. So that's what we're talking about in our range. Okay, so domain. Well, she doesn't have to work any hours. So she could work 0 hours that week. It's going to be less than or equal to x less than or equal to. Well, it told us she could work no more than 20 a week. So that's the maximum number of hours a week she can work. Okay, so now we got to find our range. You got to know your domain to find your range. So when you have the equation, it's really easy. Take your first input, your 0, and plug it in. 8.25 times 0 is 0. So if she doesn't work any hours, she doesn't get paid any money. Next, we're going to take that 8.25 and I'm going to do 8.25 times 20 because that's the maximum number of hours she can work. And she could make $165 that week. So the domain is the number of hours and the range is how much she could make and how much money she can make. Okay, let's try 7. Danica has a catering business baking cakes. She makes $12.98 for each cake. She can bake no more than 6 cakes a day. The equation can be used to model the situation where C represents the number of cakes Danica can bake a day. So first, is this data discrete or continuous? Well, can you bake part of a cake? Nope. So then we know it's discrete. Remember, when it's discrete, you have to list out your domain. It's going to be like 0, 1, 2, Okay, so for domain Domain are x's, so it's for C, the number of cakes. Well, the smallest number of cakes she can make is 0. Or she can make 1 or 2. And the most that she can make is up to 6. So she can make up to 6 cakes in a day. So my domain is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your range is you got to plug in those into your equation. So if I do 1298 times 0, I get 0. If I do 1298 times 1, I get 1298. And I actually am just going to go back to my table like we did earlier and put in that equation, 1298x. And I'm going to go to my table. And this is going to give me all those outputs. So 1298 for 2 is 25.96. For 3 is 36.94. 4 is 51.92. 5 is 64.90. And then 6 would be 77.88. And that would be the most she could make in the day. So then it asks, what does the point 4, 51.92 represent? Well, 4 is the number of cakes. And 51.92 is her money. So what this says is, if she bakes 4 cakes, she will make $51.92. Okay, number 8 says find the slope for each function below. Okay, so remember, let's talk about slope. M represents our slope. Slope is the change in y over the change in x, which means y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which also is the rise over the run from a graph. So depending on what information they give us, okay, so A says find the line that passes the slope, through the points 10, negative 10, 2, and negative 2, 6. So I'm going to label my points x1, y1, x2, y2. And now I can just use my slope formula. So I'm going to use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 is 6 minus 2 over negative 2 minus, now be careful with this, it's minus a negative 10. Don't lose your signs. So 6 minus 2 is 4. Negative 2, with these become 2 positive, so we get positive 8. And I can simplify that to 1/2, so my slope is 1/2. Okay, B is from a table. I like to do it from a table using the change in y over the change in x. So to get from 9 to 9, we are adding 0. To get from 2 to 4, we are adding 2. Let's check that again. 9 to 9 is adding 0. 4 to 6 is adding 2. So my slope is 0 over 2. So something that may help you when you're doing slope is if you have a number divided by 0, it's undefined. If you have 0 divided by a number, it equals 0. Okay, so we have 0 divided by 2, which is 0. And you can check that because if you put that in your calculator, if you do 0 divided by 2, you actually get out 0. And this would be a horizontal line because it has a slope of 0. Okay, let's look at C. C is from a graph. So I'm going to find what I call two perfect points, where it crosses the axis perfect. So one of my perfect points is 1, 1, and another one I see is negative 1, 4. You could do the slope formula. It's fine if you like doing the slope formula. I like to do rise over run when I have a graph. So I'm going to go and count how much I went up. So I went up 1, 2, 3. Since I went up positive, it's a positive 3. Then your run is how much you go over, 1, 2. But we went left, so it's negative 2. So my slope is 3 over negative 2. That's also the same as negative 3 over positive 2. Okay, last one of this type. Let's see, here we go. This time, it's giving us the interval. We want to look when x is 0. So if I go when x is 0, I'm going to use that point 0, comma, negative 3. Then the next, this is also an x value. So when x is 2, I have the point 2, comma, 1. So we have the point 0, comma, negative 3 and the point 2, comma, 1. Again, you could use your slope formula if you'd like. I like to use my rise over run because I'm a little lazy. And so I'm going to draw my triangle to connect. So start my pencil here. I went up 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rise is 4. And then my run, I went to the right, so it's positive 2. So it's 4 over 2, which is positive 2. So my slope is 2. Just to kind of remind you of, I taught my kids, and I think Miss Simler also taught hers, slope guy. So slope guy, I'm trying to find a place. If you're going uphill, it's positive slope. If you're going downhill, it's negative slope. If it's a vertical line, you've got an undefined slope. And if you have a horizontal line, you have a 0 slope. And there's your little slope guy. Okay, here we go. Number 9. It says, in 2007, Tyler's accounting firm earned $75,000. In 2017, he earned $125,000. Find the average rate of change in the amount he earned per year for Tyler's accounting firm. Average rate of change, remember, that's just a way of saying slope. It wants you to find the slope. So that we got to have some ordered pairs. So it told us in 2007, his firm earned $75,000. Then in 2017, his firm earned $125,500. Well, now I have my x1, y1, x2, y2. So I can just do my slope formula to find my average rate of change. So I'm going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I have 125,500 minus 75,000. And then I'm going to do 2017 minus 2007. And I'm going to put all that in my calculator at one time. I'm going to use my fraction button. And I'm going to do 125,500 minus 75,000 over 2017 minus 2007. And when I do, I get 5,050. So the average rate of change is $5,050 per 1 year. Okay, here we go. Delilah is selling homemade jewelry. She has 135 pieces total to sell. The graph to the right shows how quickly she is selling her jewelry. What does the y-intercept represent? Okay, so this tells us this is the days and this is the pieces of jewelry. So my y-intercept is when x is 0. So my y-intercept is 135. So that's the initial amount of jewelry she started with. I can't spell jewelry correct. Okay, 11. Says there's a new grooming business. They charge a $25 flat fee plus an additional $10 an hour. A linear model is written where X is the number of hours. So I'm going to, X is the number of hours and Y is the total cost of grooming. What is the slope? Well, you know what? I can write the equation. So Y equals, we have a $25 flat fee, which means you just pay it once, plus an additional $10 an hour. So that would be 10x, because x is the number of hours. So now we're in that form, y equals mx plus b. Even though it's a little bit different, we know our slope is 10 because it's the one next to x. Okay, number 12 says graph the following functions. Okay, it's giving us our m and b. I always tell my kids you begin at b. So my b value is 4. This is your y-intercept. So it's always going to be on the y-axis. So here's my y-axis. I'm going to go to 4. There's my first point. M tells us how to move. This negative, it can either be on top or bottom. It doesn't matter. So if I move, if I go, that tells us our slope is negative, so which means my line should be going downhill. So I'm going to write it as negative 3 over 2, which means I'm going to go down 3, right 2, down 3, right 2, down 3, right 2. I'm going to do as far as I can. Or I could have gone up 3, but then I would have had to gone left 2. Now I can draw my line. And you want to make sure you do connect the dots. Okay, so let's try the next one. The next one says we have a y-intercept at 0. So that y-intercept at 0 is at that point 0, 0. My slope is a positive 1/4, so it should be going uphill. So I'm going to go up 1, right 1. Up 1, right 1. Or go back here and I can go down 1, left 1. Down 1, left, down 1, left 4. I said 1, I'm so sorry. Down 1, left 4. And there is my line. Okay, we're getting close to the end, guys. Here we go. Number 13. It says rewrite each equation in slope-intercept form. Well, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So it means we need to solve these equations for y. Then it wants us to identify the slope and y-intercept and graph. So here we go. If I'm trying to get y by itself, I'm going to add 2x to both sides. These two x's cancel, so I'm left with y equals. These both do not have an x, so you cannot combine them. So I'm going to leave it as 2 plus 2x. Well, I have y by myself, so it's in slope-intercept form. So y equals 2 plus 2x. Remember, your slope, once it's in this form, is the one next to x. So my slope is 2. Then my y-intercept, that should be negative 2, Ms. Campbell. So my y-intercept is negative 2. So when we graph these, we're going to begin at b. This is my b. So I begin at negative 2. My slope. Now slope is supposed to be a fraction. It's supposed to be rise over run. So to make any whole number a fraction, you can put it over 1. It is a positive slope, so I should be going uphill. So here we go. I'm going to start here. I'm going to rise 2 and then right 1. Rise 2, right 1, rise 2, right 1. Going to keep doing that. Or I could have gone down 2, left 1. Now I can draw my line. Okay, part B, we've got to do the same thing. We're going to get y by itself. So the first thing I need to do is subtract my x. I'm left with negative 3y equals negative 9 minus x. Y's not by itself yet, so I got to divide both sides by that negative 3. And I'm going to divide each term by negative 3. So I get y equals, well, negative 9 divided by negative 3 is a positive 3. Here I have a negative divided by a negative, which makes it a positive. Remember, there's that 1 sitting in front of this x, so this is 1/3 x. So my slope-intercept form is 3 plus 1/3 x. My slope in this case is 1/3 because it's the one with the x, and my y-intercept is positive 3. Again, since my slope is positive, we know my line should be going uphill. So I'm going to begin at my B. So I'm going to go to 3. I'm going to put it on my y-axis. And M tells me how to move. So I'm going to rise 1 and run 3. So I'm going to rise 1. Ooh, I can't say that. I'm going to go to right 3. Up 1, right 3. Up 1, right 3. Or I could go down 1, left 3. Down 1, left 3. Sorry, I couldn't count. And there is my pretty graph. Okay, we're on our last 2. We can do this, guys. Our last topic. Our last topic says find the value of A. It gives you a slope. So we know our slope is going to be 7. Well, we've got to find this equation. We got to get it in the form y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to divide everything by 3. So I get y equals a over 3x minus 15 divided by 3 is 5. Well, in that equation, the slope part is the a over 3. So now we're going to put a over 3. We want our slope, and we want it to equal 7. So to solve this equation, we have a divided by 3. To undo dividing by 3, we're going to multiply both sides by 3. Well, these 3's on the left cancel, so a equals, and then 7 times 3 is 21. So my answer is 21. And we can check ourselves. If we plug in 21 here, 21 divided by 3 is 7. So we did a good job. Okay, so let's try that one again. So part B, again, I have to get the y by itself because we got it to get in the form of y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to divide everything by that negative 2. So I get y equals a over negative 2x minus 4. Again, what I care about in this is the slope. So the slope in this case is a over negative 2. We want the slope to equal 4, so it equals 4. So now I'm just solving my equation. So to solve my equation, I have to multiply both sides by that negative 2. These cancel. So a equals 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. We made it. We did a really good job. I am so proud of you, and do awesome on your test. I know you will do a great job. If you have questions, go see your teacher.